Welcome back to the Hand of Pod, Euros special. part two. So we left you having just talked about Euro 68, and I am joined by Matt once again. And hello, Matt. And we will be talking today about Euros 72, 76, and Euro 80. To kick off, be running you through Euro 72. Now, this was a bit of an expansion on the previous editions, with 32 teams entering the qualifying round, having been divided into 8 groups of 4 teams each, and each group winner went through to the quarterfinals. And it kind of feels that kind of setup feels like the first time we were looking at a more modern day format of the competition. And the quarterfinals were played over 2 legs, home and away. And one of the most notable games of the quarterfinals was England v West Germany. And the first leg being played at Wembley. And the Germans dismantled the English, and what was said to be the beginning of the end for Alf Ramsey. So after winning the World Cup in '66, and then a good performance in '97, but not in 1970, but then knocked out by Brazil, they were kind of playing as home favourites, having been kind of known never to really lose at Wembley. But yeah, Germany turned up and kind of showed them what more modern football was looking like, with a real kind of attacking and flair, and more flair and skill than anyone has seen before. And it was quite a big game. It was televised in England, which was quite a rarity at the time. But yeah, Germany won 3-1 at Wembley. Their kind of superstar at that time was Günter Netzer, who was, you'd probably compare him to a George Best style player in his personality as well as his style of play. But he was kind of Germany's answer to Johan Cruyff at the time, one of the greatest midfielders of the time and probably of all time. But Germany's team was kind of full of flair and full of footballers that were like I say, advancing the game into much more attacking tactics. And Alf Ramsey was a bit kind of stuck in his ways, refused to kind of change anything. England had Rodney Marsh on the bench, who was their kind of most exciting player, who all the fans wanted to see. You probably compared him to Günter Netzer. But Ramsey left him on the bench and brought him on towards the end of the match, but it was kind of too little too late. And they went to Berlin for the second leg, having almost conceded defeat, really, and drew 0-0. So did not progress to the finals that time. And like all previous tournaments so far, this was a 4-team finals, and the hosts were chosen from the 4 teams that qualify for it, with Belgium being chosen as hosts, having beaten Italy in the quarterfinals. It was said it would have most likely been England if they had got through. It would have been played in England, but wasn't to be. The other teams qualifying were the ever-strong Hungarian team, and of course, Euro specialists, the Soviet
Union. Unbelievable.
always there.
But hardly any record in the surrounding World Cups.
Yeah, I know. Amazing, isn't it?
It's mad, isn't it?
You don't hear them talked about. I mean, I don't really, without kind of going through all the World Cups, but I kind of don't really recall them being talked about World Cups until kind of like maybe 94. I remember them being at the World Cup, USSR.
In 70, they got knocked out in the quarterfinals after extra time by Uruguay.
Right.
So like, they got out of the group stage, but straight out.
Yeah. But I mean, the first time I remember anyone talking about a kind of notable Russian team was that 94 World Cup. But yeah, Euros.
Did you say
masters.
where did you say Italy were in the quarterfinals, or were Italy?
Italy lost to Belgium in the quarters.
Right.
Obviously, they were beaten finalist in the previous World Cup to Brazil, but kind of soundly beaten by Brazil in that World Cup final. I think England were probably second favourites to Brazil, if not favourites of that tournament. So I think the Brazilians probably saw the England game as the final and pretty much breezed through the rest of the tournament.
So England got knocked out of the 1970 World Cup by West Germany, and then the 1972 Euro qualifiers by West Germany.
No, they were knocked out of the 1970 World Cup by Brazil.
No, they weren't.
1970. Was that? I thought it was the match where
that was a group stage. That was a group stage.
Was that the group stage? That famous picture of Bobby Moore and Pele changing.
No, that was
shirts.
That was the group stage match.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think knocked out. Yeah. So I mean, I guess that quarterfinal against Germany was almost like a revenge match scene for England. They were going to get revenge on the Germans, but
extra time as well.
Yeah. Excellent. So yeah, Belgium took on West Germany in the first of the semis. Both teams playing in their first finals, with the Germans having not entered the first two tournaments and then losing in the quarterfinals of the previous edition. But like I said, this kind of feels like the first proper Euros with all the big countries actually entering and a full 32 team qualifying system. But the Germans beat Belgium with two Gerd Müller goals, the late consolation for Belgium to make it 2-1. But they were much the stronger team against Belgium in that semi-final. And the other semis, the Soviet Union beat Hungary by 1-0. And going into the final, Germany completely rolled over the Soviets. 3-0 in the final at the Heysel Stadium in Brussels. Another 2 goals from Müller, making him top goal scorer for the tournament. But many people said this was Germany's greatest ever side. It
was a good team.
Yeah, great team, full of stars, really. And they had obviously Müller, and I've talked about Günther Netzer, but they had players such as obviously Beckenbauer, Paul Brittner, Sepp Maier in goal, and Henkes was actually fourth. He's fourth highest ever record goal scorer in the Bundesliga. So yeah, incredible
team.
To
be eclipsed by Harry Kane.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We've got a few to go. Yeah, they were talked about as like total football at that time. Their answer, like before the best Dutch team in the following World Cup, but they again lost to this German team. But at this 72 World Cup, they were playing such more expansive football than they did 2 years later in the World Cup, even though they won it. That it's said that this team was just so good and so far ahead of everyone else, and they kind of like pretty much breezed through the entire tournament with no one really getting anywhere near them at that time. But yeah, so yeah, West Germany with their first trip to the finals and their first win, and which was quite dominant, going on to win the World Cup 2 years later, followed by Euro 76.
Were Germany the first European team to win back-to-back Euro World Cup, or in any particular order? I think they might. Yeah, well, yes, they must have been, because the Euros only started in 60.
Started in 60, so yeah, no, obviously England 66 hadn't won it. 70 Brazil won the World Cup, so yeah, it would be first Euro World Cup holders, West Germany.
Yeah.
There's been a few since.
Yes, we'll get to them.
We will.
So we get to 1976, where it followed an identical format. They'd found their format, 32-team qualification stage in groups of 4. Winners of each group advance to quarterfinals. It gets played in over 2 legs, home and away, to then move to the semi-finals, before which the host nation are picked out of the 4 semi-finalists. So they're obviously happy with the format now. I still find it amazing that the tournament itself was just 4 matches.
Yeah, I know.
Like when you think about the finals. But then I guess there was that whole home and away quarterfinal thing is quite exciting. I like the thought of like actually having a European Cup quarterfinal played home and away.
I guess it has a more kind of club European Cup feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And at this stage, the European Cup wasn't being played in 2 legs.
If you're enjoying the Hand of Pod, follow Sterling Sports for more great football nostalgia content. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can send us a text message. Just click the link in the show notes. Yeah. Like, can you imagine how big that game at Wembley was against Germany?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
insane if that happened now. I mean, it's a bit like
There's probably never been a bigger England v Germany game at Wembley before or since.
Never.
So the winners that made up the quarterfinals. So the first quarterfinal was between Yugoslavia and Wales, which Yugoslavia won 3-1 on aggregate.
Mm-hmm.
Czechoslovakia and Soviet Union, who we've just been talking about as the perennial European Cup finals appearances. Well, they lost to Czechoslovakia 4-2 on aggregate, meaning that this was the first European Cup finals to not feature the Soviet Union. Spain played West Germany. First leg drew 1-1, and then the second leg West Germany won 2-0. So they making them reach their second consecutive finals. And then, as you mentioned, around this time, the mighty Netherlands team of the 70s that had done so well in the 74 World Cup, they won 7-1 on aggregate against Belgium, obviously previous semi-finalists, to make it to the semi-finals. So only one team had a repeat appearance from the year before. And in fact, Yugoslavia hadn't appeared before in the previous tournaments, had they? And so I think three of the four finalists were new to the semi-finals. And so the actual finals took place in Yugoslavia. So we get to the first semi.
No unrest in Yugoslavia in that era.
Yeah, there was a bit of unrest. It's all very political. I mean, actually, both fixtures were very much East Europe versus West Europe. So you had in the first fixture, you had Czechoslovakia versus Netherlands, and in the second fixture was Yugoslavia versus Germany. So it's West Germany. So it was very much an East v West.
East v West, yeah.
And actually, but the Czechoslovakia team was built up of sort of half Czechs and half Slovaks. But interestingly, this sort of came together for the sport, which is often the case, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the first semi-final was between Netherlands and Czechoslovakia, and it took place during a torrential rainstorm. So it wasn't the prettiest match in the world. But Czechoslovakia scored an early goal through Ondrus on the 60-minute mark, went down to 10 men.
Right. And this is the Dutch team that had just lost the World Cup final.
That's correct.
2 years earlier.
Yeah, this is the Dutch team. So still had Cruyff was still in the team. Apparently there was uncertainty about whether he would play in these finals, but he was there. And then the goal scorer from Czechoslovakia then scored an own goal to make it 1-1. And then the Netherlands had a player sent off. So at 90 minutes, it was 1-1, and both teams were down to 10 men.
Down to 10. Yeah.
So the semi-final goes into extra time. And actually, one of the things that's notable about the 1976 finals is that every game went to extra time. Might not be the most notable thing from the 76.
No.
But it was the first time that every match went to extra time. And then into extra time, the Czechoslovakia scored 2 goals either side of a Van Hanegem sending off, meaning that Czechoslovakia went through to the final, knocking out the mighty Dutch.
Yep.
Cruyff himself was actually yellow carded late on, meaning that he would have missed the final had Holland qualified for the final.
That would have been some story as well if that happened, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So he did miss the 3rd and 4th place playoff, but by then it had all come out that there was a lot of unrest in the Dutch camp. So the coach resigned after the game, but there was word that he'd maybe actually resigned before the game. He was very unpopular with the players, and there was a lot. It seems like the players had grown quite demanding. I read that allegedly Cruyff had said before the game that he wouldn't travel to the following World Cup with the rest of the squad. He would only he'd travel on his own with his family. And as a team, they'd kind of assumed they would win this game, and they were already looking forward to a big revenge match against Germany in the final.
Yeah, he didn't actually travel to the following World Cup at all.
No, so that was the beginning of the kind of fallout of the Cruyff era.
Yeah.
So things sort of fell apart for them, and Czechoslovakia won through. And the Netherlands were kind of known as the favourites going into the semi-finals, but lots of press said that they were all four teams were there wasn't really a weak team amongst the four. So it wasn't, whilst you look back historically and think that, well, Holland would have been outright favourites. They weren't, it wasn't a massive, it was a shock result, but Czechoslovakia were a good team at the time. So we go to the home semi-final now, where Yugoslavia are taking on the reigning world champions in Belgrade to a 50,000 partisan crowd. And things were going very well. 2 first-half goals took Yugoslavia 2-0 up at half-time. Wow. And then
love to be watching that game live. That'd have been exciting stuff.
Yes, yeah. And then in the second half, the German manager made some big changes, brought on Fleur and Dieter Müller, the other Müller. He sort of became known as the other Müller.
The other Müller.
They both came off the bench and they both scored in the second half to draw the match level. So off we go into a second extra time, and the other Müller scores another 2 goals, completes a hat trick, and knocks out Yugoslavia on their old turf.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into Müller's, because I'm sure there's going to be some kind of stat that a Müller has scored in like every Euros since 1972. I'm going to check that, but it could easily be.
It's a common German name.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Müller as well.
Okay, sorry.
And if a Müller hadn't scored, someone ate a Müller rice. So we get to our final. We got Czechoslovakia versus the world champions, Germany, and the reigning European champions.
Yeah.
So looking to become
3 in a row,
looking to become the first country to win back-to-back European titles, but also to win a third major tournament on the bounce. So the final was also held in Belgrade. Very close. I think there's only 3 days, between the fixtures. So both semi-finals having gone to extra time, we got and substitutions not being what they are nowadays, we've got some tired legs out there. So Czechoslovakia take a 2-1 lead into half time, and once again, West Germany can concede 2 goals in the first half. Once again, they're behind at half time. They come out fighting in the second half. It's all West Germany through the whole of the second half, pressurizing, but Czechoslovakia are holding tight until 1 minute from time, West Germany score an equaliser to take the final to extra time.
Wow.
By this point, though, basically all the players are absolutely knackered, and the extra time itself sort of turns into a bit of a cagey affair, with both teams just trying not to lose, really.
Right.
It had only been decided just before the game that it wouldn't go to a replay and that penalties would be. So I think both teams were only informed on the day or the day before that penalties would be what happened if it was still a draw after extra time. And that's what happened. To a penalty shootout we go.
Yeah.
A first major international tournament to be decided by a penalty shootout, and penalty shootouts themselves not being a very common event at this age. So the first 7 penalties all get scored until Uli Hoeneß blazes over the bar in Chris Waddle style for West Germany. And up steps the dead ball specialist for Czechoslovakia, Antonio Panenka. And
you recognise
that name.
Recognise that.
So penalty shootouts not being common. Up he steps, piles in, keeper dives to his left, and Panenka chips it into the centre nonchalantly to actually win the European Cup with the last kick of the game for Czechoslovakia. I mean, what an amazing decision, and the guts to pull that off. I think, and then obviously to have a particular thing named after him forevermore.
Incredible.
But I think that,
I mean, like you said, it was the first ever penalty shootout. So it's not like he's watched penalty shootout and thought, well, maybe I could do this.
Yeah,
it's the first ever penalty shootout. And he's decided to do that. Yeah. Incredible.
But what it's not the first time he'd done it.
Right.
Apparently, he'd sort of missed a few penalties. He's quite a flary, dead ball kind of guy, and he'd missed a few penalties in the league, and so him and the keeper were just like penalty practicing all the time because he was trying to find an edge, and then he started the Panenka penalty, and he was fooling his own keeper even like multiple times in practice. So he was practicing it, to show, with the run up, not giving away what he's going to do. Yeah. So he'd honed it in practice. He'd used it 8 or 9 times in professional games in normal time.
I get people often look at it as kind of arrogant and showing off, but I guess he's invented a clever way to take a penalty.
He's just sort of
an effective way.
Yeah, to do it. He's just kind of thought, but he found a loophole.
Yeah,
really, hasn't he?
A cheat code,
basically, at the time. Yeah. But he'd used it multiple times in the Czechoslovakian league, and so it was tried and tested for him. But obviously, what teams are likely to have seen him do it in Czechoslovakia? What footage would there have been of him doing it at the time? So it's very unlikely West Germany would have known that it was a thing that he'd ever done before.
Well, you guess these days the goalkeeper would have do so much research into the different penalty takers. The goalkeeper would have probably just stood there and waited for him to do it.
Yeah. But even then, like, he is, you can't see, you don't know he's definitely. It's not like he only took Panenka penalties once he'd discovered it. Like he'd really worked on his craft to shield it and to vary it. So the keepers, but of course, so the West German keeper had not seen him do it before, but he'd decided well, and he said he'd decided in advance that's what he was going to do, because he'd thought that gave him the greatest chance in this particular circumstance to score a penalty.
Yeah,
but then you think about
what he's saying. What he's saying is it's the least likely time anyone would expect him to do it, like the goalkeeper would expect him to do it.
Yeah, but then
in that situation,
there's so much context around it having the impact that it did. Because if Hoeneß hadn't missed the penalty before him, that wouldn't have been the match-winning penalty. If the Germany hadn't scored the equaliser a minute before the end of the match and taken it to extra time, we'd never have seen that.
Yeah,
it would have never have happened.
Yeah, it'd probably just still been taking them in the Czech league, and no one have ever seen.
Yeah, one. Well, what if he would have been the penalty taker in normal time?
Yeah.
What if they'd got a penalty in normal time? He'd have done a Panenka, like he said he would have done a Panenka. So would he have done a Panenka penalty again in the shootout?
Yeah. Good point.
But he could cover it. So his run-up wouldn't have given it away. It's fascinating. I find it.
Yeah, it's amazing, really.
The fact that he knew he was going to do it before the match, like it was his thing. He knew it was a good idea. For it to then transpire to be the deciding kick of the game of the tournament is it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But great, love it. Well done. But now keepers, it's not a guaranteed thing, is it?
No. Well, I guess there's been all sorts of other things with penalties, like the one with Cruyff where they passed it. That has then been copied.
Yeah.
And remember that was copied by the old Perez Henry did it.
Yeah.
Where Perez passed it to Henry.
Yeah.
And then there's things that have then had rule changes put in, like the fake shot. That you can do the stuttering run. That's now the thing, because you're not allowed to stop. It's the stuttering run that they do. And you had who's the Italian played for Arsenal who did the jump. Jorginho. Jorginho. He does the whole jumps thing. I was so happy when he missed. Was it the World Cup? He made the last Euros against us.
Yeah,
he missed. I was so desperate for him not to score.
I bet. I'm glad they brought in the keeping the goalkeepers on the line rule. I'm glad they got more stricter on that. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because it was getting ridiculous when they weren't strict. How far forward they were jumping.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one penalty that's not I've not seen replicated is that one by Gaza when he does the old, what's it called? Well, that's got its own name, but I've forgotten it. Rabona.
Oh yeah.
When he does a Rabona penalty.
I mean,
that's straight in the bottom corner.
That's so hard.
I've never seen anything like that.
That's got to be
so hard. Yeah. But you think players like Zidane had seen that and were practicing it though?
Yeah.
But I've never seen them do it.
I mean,
so it must be that hard. Or just the balls to do it.
Yeah. Or the madness.
Because it is so hard. The madness. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah, but I mean, Euro 76, that's probably its calling card is the Panenka penalty, what it's remembered for.
Yeah, but it was a good tournament as a whole, though. There was, I mean, every match going to extra time. There was, and from coming, all 4 teams coming from such different parts of the continent as well. It was, it was obviously successful because it ended up in the tournament being expanded.
Going on to Euro 80, the first tournament with more than 4 teams in the finals.
What?
I know, how exciting. So hosts this time were chosen before the tournament, before we knew who was in it. So Italy were chosen as hosts, and 8 teams, so double the amount of teams qualified.
Italy had automatic qualification, right, from being named the hosts.
Yeah. So they were named hosts this time. So entering the tournament were Italy, Greece, who were first time as Greece, England, Netherlands, Czechoslovakia, reigning champions.
Was qualification similar? How did qualification work?
Yes, so qualification was similar to the last two. With I think it was actually only 31 teams for some reason rather than 32 in like a group stage.
Well, that's because Italy got. Automatically.
Yeah. So 31 is
Why on earth were there only 31 teams?
Yeah, I was reading the
what happened to the team?
I thought, why is that different?
Yeah.
So Italy qualified. So
they had 3 groups of 5.
Yeah. So
only the winning team from each group qualifying, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, making it through. So basically, rather than having the 2-legged quarterfinals, all 8 teams that qualified went straight to the finals.
Yeah.
Netherlands, Czechoslovakia, Spain, Belgium, and West Germany.
Spain get to the quarterfinals, and I think they got to the quarterfinals of every previous one, didn't they?
Yeah, but this is the first one they've got to the finals since they won it. Same as Italy.
Yeah,
since they won those ones in the 60s. So it's been a while since they've been in the finals proper. But it was a strange format of the actual finals. They didn't go straight into quarters. They had 2 stages. So 4 teams in each group with the winner of each
mini
group.
World Cup format.
Yeah. But the winner of each group going into the final.
Right.
Playing each other in the final. And this was kind of an era of tournaments trying to figure it out, because the 1978 World Cup had two group stages, with then the winners of the second group stage playing in the final. It was all the whole controversy in Argentina with the games not being played at the same time, and like the call for a fixed game, because Argentina played the last game, knowing what they had to do.
It is amazing the amount of different formats the World Cup has been through, because it seems so set in its way, for a long time. Yeah. It's hard to imagine that it ever was something else. Anyway, this is not about the World Cup.
Yeah, but I think there seemed to be a lot of experimenting going on around this time as to how best to work all these international tournaments. But yeah, so two groups.
I mean, it took me a few years to find the optimum fantasy league head-to-head format.
Yeah, and you still think about changing it each year. Still get your annual review. But yeah, so I thought it was a bit strange that you just had two groups with the winners going straight to the finals, and the way it turned out makes it seem even strange, because when it's a close group, you're basically going to a final on like what turned out to be like goals scored, basically, with the same goal difference.
Oh wow, yeah.
But there's one game that I looked at in particular, was England v Belgium, which was the first group game played in Turin, and it was England were very kind of hotly fancied for this tournament going in.
Oh really?
Yeah, well, they romped through the qualifying stages, won all their games. Kevin Keegan was top goal scorer in qualifying. He'd won the previous two Ballon d'Ors with Hamburg, won the European Cup before that with Liverpool before he went to Hamburg, and they lost that. He was in the Hamburg team that lost the previous European Cup final to Nottingham Forest. So English teams had been kind of winning European Cups religiously for the last few years going into that, and the kind of team was full of England greats with like Ray Wilkins, Trevor Booking, Ray Clements in goal, Phil Neal, all sorts of kind of stars in the team. Belgium were decent, but they were kind of outsiders, and it was kind of the first like abroad tournament for England fans ever to go to in an era that England fans were getting known for hooliganism, just going into the late 70s and going into the 80s, and because obviously they won it in 66, so there was no traveling, and 1970 World Cup was in Mexico, so it's kind of at that point it's very hard to get to. And having not been in many of the Euro final, this was the second. Did they go? They didn't reach the last four in 76, the finals, did they? So they'd only been to one other Euro finals.
Who, England?
Yeah.
Where had they been to a final with Euros finals before? I don't think.
Yeah, they were in the 68.
Oh yes, one. Yeah.
And then the World Cup in 78 was obviously in Argentina. When it was traveling to Argentina was a bit hard then, and they didn't qualify for the World Cup in 74. So this was big thing for England fans. All of a sudden, they were traveling to Italy, where you could even drive to if airfares weren't big enough. So there was a huge kind of descendant on Turin by all these England fans. There'd already been some trouble outside the ground in the days leading to it, and then it was kind of really badly policed and organised and by the Italians, and there wasn't even segregation in the stadium, and there was a lot of Italian hooligans who had gone to the game as well, because it was so you could just turn up and walk in, get tickets on the gate. It was so easy. But Ray Wilkins scored the first goal of the game, and it was probably Ray Wilkins' most famous ever goal. You will have probably seen it because Belgium were playing this really high line, and they had kind of amateur linesmen in the tournament, and the refereeing wasn't great. So England were just being blown offside like every 5 minutes because the referee, the linesman, just wasn't keeping up with the play, so they were going mad about it. But then Ray Wilkins picks up the ball, faced with this really high line. He flicked it over the defenders and ran onto it himself, and then runs through and scores. And so it's quite a famous goal. And as soon as I was looking into this, I was like, oh, I've seen that goal. I remember. Obviously, I wasn't alive at the time, but you were actually, Matt. This is your first tournament in existence.
That's very true.
Yeah. So, but 3 minutes later, Belgium actually equalised, and that's when it all kicked off in the stadium, and ended up with the Italian police wading in, throwing tear gas into the stands, and then the game kept getting stopped, and it was a bit of a farce, really. And the players were complaining of the effects from the tear gas in their eyes.
Yeah.
And probably, the match should have been called off, really. They never got in control of it. And then the match never really kind of got going again properly. And it was just so stop-start. They ended up being 1-1. And then England lost to Italy 1-0, and then ended up beating Spain in the final match. But they were finished on 3 points, with Belgium and Italy finishing on 4 points. So they're only 1 point behind.
Spain going out of the quarterfinals again.
Spain going out of the quarterfinals again. But they're only 1 point behind the group winners, which would have seen them in the final. So if they'd have, which was Belgium, and if they'd have beaten Belgium in that first game, they'd have been in the final of the tournament. So it was, and like I said, they were hotly fancied for it as well. So it seems like a tournament that, I mean, there was big uproar in England about the hooliganism, and they were vilified by like Maggie Thatcher and all the England players, and Ron Greenwood, I think the England manager, kind of spoke out about it, and were really, really vocal about how bad it was. And it was, I think it was mainly seen that these fans cost England a chance of winning that tournament.
How about this, though? Completely unrelated. I mean, related in as much as it's about the same group of the same tournament. But Italy, home nation, 3 group matches, 1 goal. 0-0 with Spain at the San Siro, 1-0 over England in Turin, 0-0 with Belgium in Rome. 1 goal.
The Italian defence.
Yeah, no goals conceded, 1 goal. But as you say, they didn't get to the final because Belgium had the same goal difference but scored 3.
Scored more goals,
Let in 2. I mean, there's not a lot of goals in that group.
No. And they said apparently because of the format, the group stage format, all the games were a lot more cagey, because they didn't need to kind of win to go through, and it's only 2 points for a win as well.
Oh,
so a draw is worth a lot more.
Of course.
So 0-0 is a good result.
Oh, I see. Because had it been 3 points for a win, but then England would have still only been 1 point behind them, because they would have been 5, 5, and 4.
Yeah, it wouldn't have made much difference to the actual results, but just the way you approach the games, because you're either getting 2 points or 1 point for a draw. It's not. Yeah, you're not getting 2 points more for scoring more goals. You're just getting 1 point more, so you'll often be more likely to play.
Yeah.
But your man Panenka was in the featuring in the other group for Czechoslovakia,
playing against West Germany in the first group stage game.
Yeah,
a replay of the final. This time, though, Rummenigge, the 57th minute, takes it the West Germans' way.
Yes, yeah.
1-0
to the Germans.
And then you finally have that replay for the Dutch to play against West Germany in the European Cup finals, and West Germany beat them as well. West Germany had another Müller in their team, so now they've got Hansi Müller.
Oh, So
So
there's definitely been a Muller. There's definitely been a Muller play.
we got a
Euro
third.
since 72.
We got a third consecutive Muller.
Okay, we'll keep tabs on that. But yeah, I mean, the Netherlands team coming off the back of losing in the previous two World Cup finals.
Yeah,
I don't think they were anywhere near as good a team as they were in
Argentina.
In Argentina. Like they were Cruyffless as they were in Argentina.
But that's mad. They got to the final in '78 without Cruyff, who you think of as being the talismanic player of the Dutch team in the '70s.
Yeah, but it was an amazing team.
Yeah.
Without Cruyff.
Yeah.
But it just was so very short. For a very short period, they were an amazing team.
Yeah.
Because like there was no real standout. Like the Germans were good, but they were nowhere near as good as they were in '72 and the World Cup in '74.
Yeah. Well, in '78 they got knocked out in the group stage, didn't they?
Yeah.
Of the World Cup. Oh, they got through to the second group stage.
So yeah, it's confusing. Second group stage.
Very confusing.
Yeah. But they were the last match of you talk about this group stage, the last match of the group, the West Germany were already qualified and were able to rest their players against Greece.
Right.
So drew 0-0 with Greece.
Another 0-0.
Match, which meant that Czechoslovakia just needed a draw against Holland to guarantee the third place, but neither of them could win the group and get to the final anyway.
To have been expanded into a bigger finals. Looking at all of the non-Italy games, attendances were
poor.
15,000 maximum.
Yeah, it was really low attendances.
Most less. So obviously it wasn't like a World Cup, was it? It was still finding its feet.
Yeah, I mean even the final in Rome was 47,000.
Yeah.
So it's not. But the previous tournaments were better attended.
Yeah, but because it's just a semi-final and a final, right?
Just the 4 games, yeah. And they were often played on the same day. Same day. Some of these things were the same day in the same stadium. So people would go to one game.
Right.
So there was one of the third and fourth playoffs in the previous tournament. I can't remember which, but that had like a record attendance because it was played on the same day as the final.
Oh, really?
So everyone that was there for the final just watched the third and fourth place as well. In the same stadium.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like a poor tournament. Like we've talked about, most of the tournaments we've been talking about so far has been like, oh, they've been loads of goals, great tournaments, are quite exciting and getting better and better. And then all of a sudden you've got this tournament which feels like a bit of a damp squib. And it feels like it's mainly due to the group stage format.
Yeah.
But yeah, West Germany kind of just got through to the final, and then they were playing Belgium in the final, and Belgium just weren't good enough. Just weren't really as good as West Germany, and Germany won it 2-1. They seem to have become the new Soviet Union of the Euros. The Germans. 3
finals on the trot.
What an era.
Yeah.
What an era.
That's mental.
So, yeah, Soviet Union actually came bottom of their group in qualifying.
Who did?
1980. Soviet Union came end of an era. Bottom of their group for the qualifying of the Euro 80.
Wow. Well, one more thing about Euro at 1980.
Yeah.
So the third and fourth place playoff was between Czechoslovakia and the hosts Italy.
Yeah.
And it went to penalties. And Czechoslovakia won 9-8 on penalties.
Yeah, that's it. So Panenka did not do
he
Panenka.
Did not. But isn't that interesting that the keeper he still dived?
Yeah.
So had he done a Panenka, he would have scored.
Yeah.
Amazing. Love it.
So that ends at those 3 tournaments, and I believe having a small knowledge of Euro 84, we go on from talking about this poor tournament to Euro 84. Often I hear people say it is potentially the best ever Euros to date. It's some people's favourite Euro, so we look forward to talking about that next time. Thanks, Matt. See you next time.
Thank you. I'm off to practice my chip penalties.
Good luck.